the law that for quality purposes and assurances, and also for educational purposes, as well as my personal security, this call is being recorded and monitored. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. And I'm also going to reserve all rights delegated by God and protected by the Constitution, recognized under UCC 1-308 without prejudice. So my name is Seneca Siebert, superscripted copyright symbol. Um, and the reason why I'm calling is that there have been three incidences of where St. Augustine's police department had stopped and accosted me, put me in an illegal de facto arrest, accused me of committing a crime because I was located in a public spot, a public place, a public forum, and also a public easement located on Hypolita. Was operating in an ecclesiastical capacity or a non secular capacity. I was operating in my spiritual self. I'm a non citizen national, non resident. I'm one of the people of the several states, and I have all the pertinent documents to back up everything I'm saying. So essentially, these officers had tried to harass me and coerce me into no longer being in this spot. And, I've been studying law and my rights for 11 years, and I chose to stand on my rights. Well, that's when I told them that I was exercising my rights, is when they first initially put me in a de facto arrest. So the city of St. Augustine's courts had dismissed the case because the officer, this is what they claim, because I had actually filed a continuance on the case and was building up my defense when I got an email that the city had dismissed the case based off it being assigned to a criminal jurisdiction. Okay? Now, whenever I meet these officers, just like I did with you, I reserved all my rights. So when these officers came to me, I told them, for the record, I reserve all rights delegated by God and protected by the Constitution, recognizing a UCC 1-308, also invoking UCC 1-103.6, which brings the Uniform Commercial Code in harmony with the common law. There is also Florida Statute 2.01 that recognizes Florida being a common law state, but I did not mention the Florida statute, but it is recognized. There's also 671207 recognizes in Florida statute the reservation of rights. And where there's a right, there's always a remedy, especially in the common law. I also showed them the pertinent, so I asked them if they swore an oath to protect and serve the Constitution. They did not answer me. Then I showed them all the pertinent documents that I let them know that any actions commenced against me may be in violation of USC 18, Part 1, Chapter 13, 241, conspiracy to go against my rights under color of law, and also 242, deprivation of rights under color of law. And I even pulled out, because I went to go be a police officer, I have the legal guidelines from the LexisNexis, which came out of the Florida Criminal Justice Source Book that I have, 2016-2017 edition. Like I said, I was going to be a police officer, and I had these legal guidelines within this manual. Right as soon as you open it up, what a de facto arrest is, reasonable articulable suspicion, what probable cause is from a crime, and it even says in there, talking about a class action lawsuit. And so I had mentioned all this stuff and showed the officers. Well, they wanted my name. My name is actually copywritten. I have a hold harmless indemnified agreement as well as a copyright notice that protects the trademark and the original origin of said Seneca Lee Siebert. Because without me, the government, without my awareness at the time, nor my parents or anything like that, created a fictional entity or a corporate juristic person known in all capital letters, as well as an ens legis. An ens legis is a creature of law. So through the law, they created this Seneca Siebert, which is not really the original Seneca Siebert. I'm the original Seneca Siebert. So because it falls under patent law, which so I have that book as well, but we're not going to go into that because it's not like I'm trying to stroke myself, and make myself glorified. The point is that my name is copywritten. So I let them know under the Fifth Amendment, it says you can't use private property for public use without just compensation. So my name is private property. So because I invoked my Fifth Amendment right, she says, all right, that's it, you're under arrest. Well, what I do is, for the last 2.5 years, moved by the Spirit of the Holy Spirit, I make magic abraxases. They're called magical amulets. So I take metaphysical spiritual crystals and wrap them so people can wear them to help with their spiritual journey and catalyst them into these specific, like, essentially what I'm trying to say is that we're living in a continuous evolution of now. So if I gave you a crystal, that crystal was meant for you when you got it to help you with your spiritual journey. And it'll start to catalyst these specific events metaphysically and spiritually in your life, and maybe even protect you, heal you, based off the power of the crystals. Now, this is going to fall into lines of belief and skepticism and the idea of whether this is real or not, and that is not necessarily what's up for debate here. So they kicked all my jewelry that I made privately for people on a spiritual journey over, trampled all over it, placed me in a de facto arrest. When they forced me to sign the ticket, they said if I don't sign the ticket, they're going to take me to jail. So I signed it. I put my autograph on there, Seneca Lee Siebert, superscripted copyright symbol followed by UCC 1-308, Vico Actus. Vico Actus means that I'm under duress, which actually invalidates the signature. So that's also going to be mentioned. Well, they dismissed that case because they said that the officers placed it in a criminal jurisdiction. So I looked at that as victorious for the people. So I went back to that same spot feeling, hooray, hallelujah, I'm going to go back out there. By the way, under, I believe it's Section 6 of the Florida Constitution, I have a right to work. And so now this is, we haven't got that yet. So when I went out there on April 27th, okay, Officer Bryant, who was one of the first officers that came in contact with me from the very first time, who told me I needed to move, and because I didn't want to listen, that's when he called in Sergeant Garman, Brittany Garman, also Corporal, I believe, Tim Rado. I have all their names and also their oaths of office, because I asked them also, again, did they swear an oath to protect and serve? And every time I made contact with these individuals, unconsensual contract, I let them know I reserve all rights. I don't contract with you. I'm not an employee of the city. I'm one of the people of the several states. I'm actually a part of the General Assembly, which is the de jure national government. And I'm one of the people that is in paper on the land and soil jurisdiction. So I'm not in any special maritime jurisdiction recognized under USC 18, Part 1, Chapter 1, Statute 7 talks about this, the special maritime jurisdiction that I know that most of everybody that are U.S. citizens, they don't realize that they're actually lost at sea. And they're deemed to be citizens, which is known as a corporation. Well, I'm not a corporation. I'm a living man. So I let them know all these things, and they still proceeded to go against my rights. And then Mr. Spencer Bryan and Officer Godfrey, I don't know his first name, I believe it's Jacob, he turned around and he said, I said, well, the city dismissed the case because there was no crime that took place. And I have People versus Battle. If you look up People versus Battle, a traffic infraction or even any citation is not a crime. It says traffic infractions are not a crime. People versus Battle, 50 cal APP 3-step 1 Super 123 CAL RPTR 636639. And essentially, I have another one that talks about essentially citations or ordinances that fall under the color of law that are unconstitutional. They don't equate to a crime, so therefore there's no standing. So I explained that to them. And I said that I'm not contracted with the city. I'm not an employee of the city. If anything, these codes really apply to you or anybody that's an employee to the city. So, and I told Mr. Godfrey, out of respect, and I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit more perturbed than I was during the time. Like, I actually recorded every contact and incident that I made with these officers. So I was a lot more cordial and respectful to them, and when they were trampling and trespassing all over my rights. And so I told them that if it's not criminal, then it'll fall in civil. Then that means that there was a contract, and I don't contract with the city, any kind of assumption or presumption or tacit agreement or whatever, or voluntary idea that I decided to contract or be in your jurisdiction, I rebut right now. I do not contract with you, and I stand firm in myself. Well, And I told him that the courts had dismissed the case because it was a criminal one. And then Mr. Godfrey, after I reserved all rights and told him, like I said, I mentioned 242 and 241 conspiracy to go against rights, as well as deprivation of rights under color of law, and may be susceptible to a 42 USC 1983 civil action lawsuit, and he said, so after I mentioned this, and then he's proceeding to still trample all over my rights and not recognize the remedy under the common law, where there's a right, there's a remedy. He then said, in recording, I'm going to ask the judge not to dismiss the case. I'm going to persuade the judge not. I said, that's literally the definition of conspiring to go against my rights. It sounds like a mafia now. Then I asked him, who does he work for? Okay, does he work for a foreign agency? He swore an oath to protect and serve and uphold the rights and the Bill of Rights. By the way, the word bill follows in with law. So when the Congress decides, and with legislation, to create a bill and draft a bill, that's the law. So my rights are also the law. And in Article 6, it states very clearly, I believe in paragraph 2, that the United States Constitution and treaties made of and pursuance thereof and within the laws of the United States shall be the law of the land. So I'm on the land and soil jurisdiction, so therefore that's the law of the land. And he swore an oath to uphold and do this. So then he says, you know what, Mr. Siebert, every time I see you, I'm going to issue you a violation. Every single time I see you. Well, it's hard to take it seriously now, because now he doesn't want to admit that he swore an oath to protect and serve the Constitution. He's acting like I elected the city, voted the city, somehow city of St. Augustine is my God, and I have to pay them $300 a year for permission to do something that I have a right under the 9th Amendment as well as the First Amendment, and I'm a natural person, real, actual, living man. Those laws and codes apply to government officials only, and I have the codes and the case law to prove that. But so he proceeded to say that he was going to trample on my rights and issue out these violations over and over again every time he sees me. Well, under due process of law, I'm innocent until proven guilty, and I'm allowed to conduct business as usual until then. Well, so I'm out there on May 10th. Here comes Sergeant Brittany Garman. I reserved all rights. I asked her 6 times in a recording if she swore an oath to protect and serve the Constitution, never answered me once. Okay? Another officer did, I believe that falls into lines of omission, because now who does she represent? If she doesn't represent the people and she represents the city, then what gives the authority of the city to then usurp or violate my rights? They don't. So essentially, there is a reason why I'm calling, because I'm creating a defense for myself towards these measures of, now I've already filled out a demur. I did a quo warranto. I also did a constitutional challenge from the state attorney, and I haven't heard back anything from the state attorney as far as whether the ordinance is constitutional or not, because I'm challenging the constitutionality of the ordinance, So, long story short is Sergeant Brittany Garman failed to answer 6 times whether she swore an oath to protect and serve the Constitution. Another Officer Schroeder came over. He did say that, yes, I did swear an oath to protect the Constitution, but he didn't stop any of the other officers from injuring and violating my rights and exceeding their jurisdiction into my jurisdiction, my private personal jurisdiction. So then another Mrs. Eipel, Officer Eipel came. I also reserved all rights to her, and I asked her if she swore an oath to protect and serve the Constitution, and she waved down at me and says, I don't need to listen to you. I'm not talking to you. She was very rude. If this was your child, your grandmother, anybody, and you watched this documentation in a jury trial, I know that this person would be put on leave. It doesn't matter whether they didn't cave my head in and beat me up because I invoked my rights. They injured my rights are my personal property. They come along with everything that is me. And so, long story short, they then issued another violation, and I said, well, I'm innocent until proven guilty. I have every right to be here. And she says, yeah, well, then I'll take all your jewelry and all your stuff and put it into evidence. So she forced me to stop working. So we're talking from May 10th now all the way to this current moment of now, okay, that I haven't been able to feed myself, make money, or make whatever you want to call that, because it's not really money, it's a debt. How do you pay a debt with a debt? It's a promissory note. It's a negotiable instrument. It's a promissory note. So really the negotiable instrument was the citation. When you look up the word citation in a Black's Law dictionary, they're filing suits against me, which falls into the lines of barratry. So it's essentially saying I'm going to file these fictional lawsuits against somebody for financial gains, okay, for a corporation. So now I'm calling to ask what authority does the city of St. Augustine have to issue their mafia out to issue citations against me in the form of barratry, okay, and then extort money out of me for victimless crimes. That's illegal. And then when now I have to go to court again over this, and so I did file the demur, and I'm at a crossroads here of what is right and wrong, what I should do. And I don't want to go to war with anybody. Like I said, when you become a national, you make a declaration of peace. You end the Civil War, because the Civil War was never really declared ended. That's why we have the 14th Amendment, the civil rights, and everything. You have to declare these things and end the Lieber Code. And right now, the Assembly is very close to establishing their own court system and bringing back the common law courts. And we're working really hard to bring back the republic and the de jure side of the government, of a government ran by the people. And it takes a lot of virtue. You can't be living in sin doing this. You have to live a very high moral code of life. But if the people that we elect and the people that's supposed to represent the people are turning against us and don't recognize the law of the land, then who are these people? Do they work for a foreign agency? Can we meet them? Are they a foreign interest? Are they a foreign agency on the soil that is trying to eradicate and erode the constitutional liberties that people died for in this country, that God gave us? These are God-inspired rights. So I want to know the bond number of the city, okay, if there is one, which I'm pretty sure there is. I want to know who has the authority to issue out these citations and then put a lawsuit against me through fictitious allegations that somehow I need to have a permit. So I have case law right now that says this, okay? Case law right here that says, okay, hold on one second, bear with me, God bless you. And thank you for listening to me not... I'm trying to be as nice as possible. Am I coming across mean or belligerent in any way? Okay. So there's a couple of case laws here as far as hold on, just give me, okay, here it is right here, okay. So this is case law. The practice of law cannot be licensed by any lowercase s state / capital S state. Schwar versus Board of Examiners, United States Reports 353, U.S. pages 238 and 239. The practice of law is an occupation of a common right. It says the state cannot exclude a person from the practice of law or from any other occupation in any manner or for reasons that contravene the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment as well as the 5th Amendment, and that's Schwar versus Board of Examiners 353, U.S. 232, 1957. So essentially what I'm saying is that if I don't need a license to go to court to operate in a pro se capacity, proprietary persona pro se, which is my own esquire, attorney, lawyer, whatever title you want to apply to me, why would I need a permit or a license to operate in a private de jure capacity under the public easements that are owned by the people? Why would I need to pay you money to get a permit to exercise my right to freely distribute, trade, which is recognized under Article 4 in the Articles of Confederation? And if you need, I will read that off to you that talks about the sovereign capacity of the states. Because the Articles of Confederation talks about the people of the several states and then the creation of the United States. So the United States is a corporation. And so in Article 4, it talks about the better to secure and perpetuate mutual friendship and intercourse among the people of the different states in this union, the free inhabitants of each of these states, paupers, vagabonds, and fugitives from justice accepted, shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of free citizens in the several states, and the people of each state shall free ingress and regress to and from any other state, and I believe that that ingress and regress gives me a right to be on Hypolita, which is a public street, and I have a lot of case law that defines what public is. Public is owned by the people. It's not owned by the de facto agencies. And if you look up the word public juris, that is where the people have a right. They have an inherent right to be there, not be hindered or prohibited from being in a public space. So it says, when with ingress and regress means that I have every right to go to and fro and enter into and exit, and shall enjoy therein all the privileges of trade and commerce, subject to the same duties and impositions and restrictions as the inhabitants thereof, which, that usually goes with like alcohol or bringing goods that may be food and certain other goods and services that need to be regulated and at least looked at, which I agree with, to degrees. But if I'm operating in a private capacity, and I invoke the Jay Treaty of 1794, which also gives the right of Native Americans or American Indians, as well as nationals and U.S. citizens, and people, because there's U.S. treaties of peace from Great Britain and those subjects wanted to come here before, and being able to have free trade, navigation, and commerce outside the jurisdiction. So it's basically a free market reforms that allow for entrepreneurialism and private people to be able to create their own business or be unincorporated if they will, and to freely operate in these. And again, that's not what I'm saying I'm doing, but I'm saying that I have rights that protect me to be able to do what I was doing freely without being hindered under some color of law. So essentially, I let them know what, I was doing, and they still proceeded to go against me. And so now I have another court date coming up. It's supposed to be July 1st, and I asked for a copy of the oath of office from the judges to make sure that they honor their oath of office and hold them accountable. Because I can ask you, if you swore an oath to protect and serve the Constitution, and if you don't answer me, then how are you obligated to serve and defend my rights as a public servant? And if you choose not to recognize that and just ignore me, then I won't be able to use that as a proper defense if it has to go to an appeal. So I want to get a copy of the judge's oath of office. I have all the police officers' oath of office. And then it's going to boil back down to the city, because the city is the one that's saying that they are suing me under some kind of civil breach of contract, which then I would like to see the contract that I signed into. I would like to see this contract that you believe that I somehow am obligated to. If you can find one that proves, and I'm also a non-resident, and under 46.011, under venue of the Florida statutes, it says very specifically, where actions made, it's 47.011 out of the Florida statutes, chapter, so I got chapter 47, Florida, and then it says venue. And it says 47.011, where actions may be done. Actions shall be brought only in the county where the defendant resides, where the cause of action accrued, and where the property in litigation is located. Well, I'm not a rest, which is a thing, and I'm not identified, or an indentured servant. I'm not a thing, I'm a man. So it says, I'm not your property. I'm not your property, okay? And it says, this section shall not apply to actions against non-residents. So I'm a non-resident, as I've stated in all my affidavits, as I've also informed you in this phone call, that they don't have a cause of action against me. So now this brings me to my questions of who does the city of St. Augustine work for? Do they have a foreign interest, an agency? Who's the proprietor? And I would like to know the bond number of, I guess the city of St. Augustine and whoever it is that they feel that they have the authority to issue some kind of, assumption against me that, one, I violated some ordinance that doesn't apply to me, okay? That then now has drugged me into court 3 times, had my rights completely injured when I literally invoked and reserved every right standing, have shown every single officer the law. I've tried to protect your city from a lawsuit, okay? 3 times. I even let it go the first time. And then the second time I even tried to let them know, listen, I don't want to sue the city. I'm trying to be as Christian as possible. I want to forgive you guys. Why are you doing this? And then this is either a flex of authority, coercion, or, what's next? And so they're violating my right of due process of law, and not through procedural due process. I'm talking about substantive due process under special proceedings, okay? So if I was in court, I'm going to invoke the common law, and I'm also going to move the court into special proceedings, and then I'm going to bring up substantive due process, not procedural due process. And so first thing I'm going to do is go over the demur. The demur is where I'm asking them that I don't want to argue the facts that have no substance, but to recognize the law. So the law is the Constitution of the land, as well as the Constitution of the Florida Republic. And then I know that they reworded it and put a lot of their statutes and codes in there, but even within their codes and statutes, there is remedy found within there, but I'm going to stick more to common law and natural law, okay? And then, defend myself based off, the rights that have been recognized under case law. So then I'm going to ask, what do you have? And so I guess I'm calling too in an administrative process. Do you have a copy of the contract that somehow Seneca, the living man, Lee Siebert, my client, has breached this contract? Do you have a copy of the contract?
So if this is...
And can I get the bond number?
Case, I wonder if you need to, since it's an open case, I wonder if you have to do like a discovery request. Because I'm not the attorney, so I don't want to do the wrong thing.
Okay.
But, I can have one of the attorneys. Since you're representing yourself, you don't have an outside attorney. The attorney can speak with you. I can have one of them give you a call back. But I don't know if they're going to say that you need to do a discovery request since it's an active open case.
Okay, well, what's the summary judgment?
Do to you over the phone. Who knows?
I like that. And then also maybe a summary judgment. Does that also fall into the discovery?
Well, no, a discovery would just be like you requesting documentation.
Right.
And then a summary judgment would be you basically asking the court to make a decision.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
I've been pretty thorough with everything the best I can. And don't get me wrong, I really respect you. I have it in my heart. It makes you wonder where our governments stand as far as the people, okay? Now, when I look at my parents and the people that have been running this country for as long as they are, okay, with all respect, it looks like an elderly folks' home abandoned and ran away and then slipped into Congress, and that's what we have up there is a bunch of baby boomers. Well, our government is a reflection of the people. So if people gaslight, they lie, they don't take accountability, they say they're going to do one thing, but then they don't do it. I always say that my dad is a reflection of the government. My elders are exactly the government. They're liars, they gaslight you, they don't care about the rule of law, they say all these things, but then when it comes down to the brass tacks, look where our country is. So I took it upon myself to stop trying to wake people up and to just wake myself up. And so that means that I have to take responsibility, be proactive with my own self, and take in those measures. Well, there's a lot of 40-year-olds and 35-year-olds right now that are waking up, and so that means that our government will have to be a reflection of the people. So if we are going to take accountability for everything that we've ever done wrong, the lack of our own responsibility that allowed this country to get into this mess, what do you think is going to happen to the government? So to me, I forgive the government. Okay, I'm not mad at the government. I'm not mad about the scandals. I'm not mad about Epstein Island and the pedophilia and the satanic rituals that they've done and all the black, dark stuff that is culminated out of these existing administrations. I don't vote anymore. I don't participate in the religion of Babylon. I am focused more on God, my King Jesus Christ, or Yeshua HaMashiach, my governor, and then moving forward would be, well, we pay you guys. You guys survive off tax-paying dollars. Is that So does that mean that you guys create a prison and a communistic or socialistic regime that eliminates all the republic and the liberties and the freedoms and individual rights that are protected? For what? And when the corporations, which such as the corporation known as the City of St. Augustine, have more rights than the people, where are we then? Where are we as a nation moving forward? Would you like your children to not grow up in a free society, or do you think it's best that they just adapt and mold and conform to a system to eventually where, if you don't comply, then you're dead? Okay? It wasn't that long ago they were trying to force vaccines on people, mandates, and I then took it upon myself to I don't join society anymore. I choose God. So where in there then am I obligated to follow some ordinance under the color of law that usurps any of my God-given rights, especially I've done a lot of research. In the first clause within the Constitution of the First Amendment, it talks about the right of the people of a free press as well as religion. Well, it turns out that the right to religion within there, it enshrines the separation between church and state, which was also mentioned in my encounter, my unconsensual encounter with these officers who represent the city of St. Augustine. So they came and I told them, well, technically these are all spiritual. And I went and I even have the definition of spiritual within my affidavits. And essentially it says a person operating within a religious capacity. When you look up the definition of spiritual in the Black's Law Dictionary, it's talking about how so public juris, of public right, the word public in this sense means pertaining to the people or affecting the community at large. So when you violate my rights, you just violated the whole community. That which concerns a multitude of people, the word right, as so used, means a well-founded claim and interest, concern, advantage, and benefit. That's State versus Lynn. But then when you go into the definition of spiritual, okay, there's the J Treaty, and I don't like being mean. Does it feel like I'm being mean?
No, I don't feel like you're being mean at all.
Okay, because to me it feels like I am like hammering people down with the law, and it feels like I don't know why. It feels like
you have a certain frustration because you feel like you're talking to a wall, and I can understand that.
Thank you. Yeah, because now I'm concerned whether the judge is going to respect the rule of law, so I'm trying to find every bit of case law that holds a judge accountable to the Constitution. That way she doesn't violate and injure my rights. Then you have the city of St. Augustine. Well, who is the city of St. Augustine? It sounds like a corporation. I'm a living man. I do not work for the city. I'm not obligated to the city. The city, if anything, I'm allowed to enjoy all the rights in a common place as long as I don't breach the peace, hurt anybody, damage property, or create a victim or an injury in any single way. Then I have rights to the fruits of the city of St. Augustine. It's the oldest city in America. It's established in the 1500s, which really is curious to when we have a country that's supposedly started in 1776, and then we have a city that's based off the 1500s. It really brings more precedence or antecedents towards other laws that gave us remedy back in that day before 1776, and then the government that we have now was created in 1871. Well, I am an American Indian working with the Abenaki tribe and solidifying my status there. I've been doing it for now over 2 years because they're trying to find out my lineage and all these things, and I finally am in contact with the Chief Gagny. But I'm telling you that this is who I am. I'm also a national. I just got off the phone with one of the coordinators as well as a recorder, and she's an administrator. Everybody wears multiple different hats. I'm filling out applications to become a justice, and hopefully I get it. I believe that that's where God may want me to be, a part of the common law courts. I want them to solidify their jurisdiction so that when we communicate with these de facto agencies, they don't laugh at us or mock us or don't take us seriously. We elected these people. They're supposed to be working for us. And when we say that we're a national and we're coming from a different jurisdiction and they want to trample all over our rights, what they're saying is that we're guilty first and need to prove it versus being innocent first and have remedy. And what's good for me is good for you. It's known as reciprocity. So if the city of St. Augustine is operating in a de facto capacity in the de facto side of the jurisdiction, which is a district under the District of Columbia, well, it's either operating in two capacities, one or the other. You're operating under the state capacity, okay, and as a municipal organization that actually still works for the people and is under the authority of the Constitution. And then through that authority of the Constitution and the sovereignty of the state, the city then has its own authority to create ordinances. But what if those ordinances supersede the Constitution? That it can't happen that way. And so how does the city then have a right to make laws that supersede the Constitution? It can't. And it's borrowing its sovereign authority from the state itself. And the people are the ones that have the authority over the state. Okay? It's in the 10th Amendment. So it goes people, state, then government. So, and then there's the de jure side. The de jure is the lawful side. So if you look up the word de facto, it essentially means illegitimate or illegal, but yet is to be recognized as though it exists. So I don't want to war against the city and then try to legitimize the city of St. Augustine. But if I'm recognizing the legitimacy of your cooperation under the de facto side, then you have to recognize my de jure side, which is the lawful, rightful side. So I'm in a de jure capacity coming from the land and soil jurisdiction, whereas where is your jurisdiction coming from? The land and soil or another different jurisdiction? Exactly. And so there's a contract between the city of St. Augustine and the state of Florida, and then it has its own subjects and its own property and citizens or denizens, and then there's going to be the people, and especially operating in a private, even though they may be in a public space, they're still private individuals, private capacity. And I know that there's different, areas like, let's say somebody wants to film me in public. Well, I'd have to create my own privacy in public, but I have a right to do private business or private trade in a common area that is owned by the people, which is the public. So if I'm on the side of the road and I'm unincorporated, which is by choice, because the original United States of America, the people of the several states are unincorporated, whereas if you look up 28 USC 3215A, the United States, not United States of America, but United States is a federal corporation. So people are within that jurisdiction, and I'm outside that jurisdiction, unincorporated, operating in the spiritual capacity. So this is where now the discrepancy comes in, where the city thinks that it can somehow usurp or supersede my rights by an ordinance that was created by the city that is unconstitutional. The government has a right to create privileges, which comes in with the form of permits and licenses. But God gives me rights that are recognized in the Bill of Rights. And the Ninth Amendment says, the enumeration of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others, which means other rights, retained by the people. So I have a right to say what my right is, and I don't believe that I have to pay the mafia boss, ringleader, known as the City of St. Augustine, $300 a year for what? To sell my jewelry, or to trade my jewelry, or to donate my jewelry? Is this a mafia? When did we elect the City of St. Augustine? Is it my God? Is this tithings? Am I doing this for protection so they don't beat me up? Is that why I'm giving them $300 a year? $25 a month for what? For what? You see what I'm saying? That doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't. And then if I don't pay that money, then your boys in blue come and beat me up, put me in handcuffs, and throw me in a cell. because of what? Or if I don't comply, I get a citation, which is a lawsuit against me for $100. How is that not extortion? So that's extortion. And then you're using my name, which is my private protected property under copyright law, to extort that money out of an ens legis that I took proper ownership back under. And so all this evidence is administered. Now I'm calling because I want the bond number of the city to hold them accountable. That they're the ones that are subject, not me. And I want to know where the contract is that supposedly I breached. What contract did I sign into that makes me obligated or susceptible? See, they want me to file the permit, now I'm obligated because I got the permit. But I have case law that says that I can be a lawyer and present myself in the court of law and exercise and practice law without a license. Any occupation. How much money did you have to pay to be born? So you had nothing, right? So you didn't have to get a permit? Right. Okay. So how much money did they pay you, or did you have to pay to have rights? None. Okay. So I rest my case. That right there legitimizes my situation. And if I was sitting in a jury of 12 and I was presenting myself and all this evidence and all this information, I'm pretty sure I'd win. There's no contract that I breached. From the moment I made contact with the officers, and even right now, this phone call, please don't misconstrue it that I'm contracting with you or rendering any jurisdiction or any private jurisdiction or any rights. I reserved all rights. So I'm just getting it known. I'm not contracting with you, nor the city, nor anybody. Okay? That's clear. But what I'd like to do is figure out the bond number of the city and how, because they're the ones that supposedly are trying to sue me. It's not just the officers. On all the pieces of paper, it says the city of St. Augustine versus Seneca for vending without a permit. Well, I'm telling you right now that falls under the color of law. It's a regulation, ordinance, rules, statutes, anything that falls within the color of law. I would be obligated to if I was an employee or I willingly or ignorantly signed into. And then I reserved all rights from the moment I met these officers. Just like I reserved them with you, just like I'm going to do it right in the courtroom. And so, my discrepancy is I want to see somehow where it is that I'm somehow authorized or obligated to something. Yeah. Where does the city have its authority to create these rules and ordinances? Was it from the Constitution? Was it from its own charter? That without that charter, the original charter would then be the Constitution, so they're borrowing their authority from what? The Constitution, right?
Well, I know the city was created by the state of Florida in like 19 something.
Okay.
It was recognized as a independent municipal government that could create its own laws.
But are those laws...
In 1925?
So under those charters of being able to create its own ordinances or laws, are they allowed to supersede the laws of the Constitution?
Well, no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And so...
Well, let me see what I can find out for you as far as the bond thing and stuff. And I'll have to have one of the attorneys call you back. Like I said, I'm just the paralegal. I don't know.
Well, you're a sweetheart.
I will tell you, the first citation that was dismissed, the court did not dismiss that. I did. I dismissed it because it was supposed to be a civil court date, and they put a criminal court date. So it never went to the court. I dismissed it.
Have you ever heard of res judicata? Res judicata?
I've heard the term, but I don't know what it means.
So res judicata, let me find a very specific articulated definition so that we don't get crazy. So res judicata, collateral estoppel, you would use this defense of if the issues has previously been decided by a court. A plaintiff cannot refile the suit and ask a judge a second time based off the same facts to order you to pay for something that was already decided by a court. So what I want to do is go in through res judicata and essentially say, well, you've already decided against this case, whether it was you or not. So therefore, if it was already decided upon, with res judicata or collateral estoppel, it would fall within the lines of the Fifth Amendment of double jeopardy. Because if it was already decided in one jurisdiction, then why would you not come to the same decision in another jurisdiction? So essentially it's saying, hey, this was decided in one, why would you refile again and ask a judge a second time based off the same facts? Because essentially I know that you didn't see my affidavit. I was, really doing a lot of the same stuff and thinking that because it was dismissed, well, that's great. I can go about my life and sleep at night and live a normal life with where I really wanted this to go. Now, I study law as a passion because I love the law. I love God. I was reading the Bible, and one day it said that this is the law. Then next something hit me between, if you read the book of, if you read in the Bible, I believe it's going into chapter 3, it talks about, I don't think it's chapter 3 in Genesis, it might be chapter 5. It talks about Cain leaving the garden, and then he had a son named Enoch, and he named one of his cities Enoch. Well, if you go back into, I believe it's chapter 6, I think it is, 24, or it might be 5:24. Hold on one second. That was always my flaw, was never remembering the scripture to the T. But so it's 5 and it's 24. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. But if you go back in chapter, I believe it's 4, it talks about Cain, and he made all these cities. And it says, Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. And he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. So there's 2 Enochs. So I don't know why. I started to realize that there was 2 of everything. There's 2 Senecas. There's a living man Seneca, the authorized representative, creditor, and beneficiary of the said name, Seneca Seabird. And then the trustee, the corporate juristic person, ens legis, known as all capital letters, Seneca Lee Seabird, bifurcated and usurped and in fraud and forgery created, because I didn't know, the other Seneca Lee Seabird from my live birth record that then became the creation of the birth certificate and the social security number. So there is 2 of that. Then it showed me that there was 2 of everything. So this is how it all started, and I realized that there was a legal and then a lawful, and that there's 2 United States of America. So there's the United States and the United States of America. So this is how it all started for me. And then so from there, I then got into the passion of law. So in res judicata collateral estoppel, you can do more research on it, but essentially it's talking about that once an issue has been previously decided by a court, a plaintiff cannot refile the suit and ask a judge a second time based off the same facts. So it sounds like perfecting or an abusive process, because if you have the ability to evaluate all the facts of the case, knowing that this individual reserved all his rights. I'm sorry you never got to see the affidavit that I wrote up for that case, because then you would have noticed the facts and the laws, and then you would have been able to evaluate those things to decide whether should we pursue against this person. But the case was dismissed, so it's not criminal. That means that there was no corpus delicti, no injured party, so the next would be the civil. Well, now I want to see the contract that you assume or presume that I'm under. Because now we're going into civil, which means that there has to be a trust or a breach of contract, which I say in every single one of my recordings, making contact, unconsensual contact, that I do not contract with you. I do not, I am not waiving any of my rights. I do not accept, and if these people are law enforcement, they totally do not respect the rule of law. They should have left me alone, okay? And that's how I feel about it, because I, from the moment they made contact with me, reserved all rights delegated by God and protected by the Constitution, recognized in the UCC. Then they say this is a spiel. No, this is something that I have, through my evidence and research, have created, that whenever I deal with a public official that is not my friend, they have the authority to throw me in jail or to try to incriminate me in any way. I'm going to do what I did, which is just to reserve all rights. So I never read this from anywhere. This is literally from the soul of my being, the core of my being. So what I would like to do is try to discuss with you of can we do something of where either, I can maybe sign a contract or contract with the city that if they dismiss the case, I will not cause an action against you guys, but you have to leave me alone. Unless I physically harm somebody or destroy your property or steal something, then I am not susceptible to being, arrested under de facto illegal causes, under, a de facto arrest or an illegal arrest. Because, I know that there's probably a fear of Cindy saying, well, if this case doesn't get followed through with, then he has every right to sue us. So we want to take well, then I'll go to trial. I'll stand in front of 13 people and we'll have an entire American civics test. I'll even bring in people from the assembly to witness and testify for me that I am a national and that there is such thing as the de jure side of the government and that we, the people, are the reason why this government exists and this and that. And then, then they would be educated that they're citizens and are susceptible to this. And it's going to be terrible. It will, because, I'm going to bring up everything from the Constitution to the Articles of Confederation, the Declaration of Independence, case law that backs up everything that I say, and then, and then by law, then I can depose the officer. I can then file out a class action lawsuit against my rights, a deprivation of rights under color of law that is recognized under 1983. And it's like, well, you guys put 3 citations against me. That's 3 lawsuits. My friend said, because I was like, well, I don't really want to sue him. And he's like, Seneca, if they had it on every authority to put a bullet in your head, they would have already done it. That you guys don't care about me. That you don't care about the rule of law. If you saw the evidence in the body cam footage, you would have known what you were dealing with right away, that this isn't just an individual, acting belligerently or trying to get away with anything. No, I'm standing on my rights. And these officers are choosing to mock me, ridicule me. They made fun of me. They kicked my stuff over. They literally ripped me up and put me in handcuffs when they had no authority to do so. And it's happened 3 times now of where I've made contact with these individuals, and while I'm dealing with these incidences, it seems that you guys are trying to perfect your stance to go against me. I have all the laws and rights that protect me, even in the federal court system. So it comes from my perspective is that you want to get sued because you don't care about me. You want to put lawsuits against me. I just said definition of a citation. I don't want to have to pull it up, but I will, of what the definition of a citation is. It says, so barratry. Barratry is citation, Spanish law, citation, summons, an order of a court requiring a person against whom a suit has been brought to appear and defend within a given time. That's literally the definition of a citation. It's a suit being brought against me. And then barratry. Barratry is the act of encouraging lawsuits between others in order to create legal business for one's personal gain and profit. This is falling in the definition of extortion. There's a victimless crime. I'm being extorted $100 for what? Because I don't want to contract with your state, that I'm going to stand on my rights, that I have every right to do this. And if you want, I'll prove it to you. It's Section 1 of the Florida Constitution. So I have it downloaded. We'll go to the PDF of the Florida Constitution. So the Florida Constitution states, I have it downloaded inside here. We're going to go to downloads. Florida Constitution. And then that way you know that I'm not crazy and making this stuff up. Okay. I know I didn't move it. U.S. codes, quo warranto. Here it is right here. Florida Constitution. Okay, we're going to open it. Okay, so I'm going to use your modern, not the 1985 one, but they have a modern one. That way I at least can do the best that I can at trying to use the language necessary. But it says right in Section 1, political power. All political power is inherent in the people. Who? The people. Not a corporation, not the government, the people. Then it follows with, and it says the enunciation. So in the 9th Amendment, it says the enumeration, which means that just because it wasn't written down doesn't mean you don't have these rights. Well, so the language that they use in Section 1 of the Florida Constitution, it says all political power is inherent in the people. Who? The people. The enunciation, which means that even though we didn't announce it or enunciate it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. But it says the enunciation herein of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or impair others, meaning rights, retained by the people. And then it says all natural persons, female and alike, are equal before the law. So this is where reciprocity comes in. So just as you have the right to exist and to freely operate the way that you do, and you may have certain policies and obligations that maybe you don't follow all the time. Maybe the police don't always follow the laws and the ordinances and the policies that are written for them, but they still have a right to exist and defend life, liberty, and property and happiness. Well, it goes the same for us. The people, we're all equal to the law. So we're equal to the government. Section 6, the right of the person to work shall not be denied or abridged on account of membership or non-membership in any labor union. So I'm a non-member, I'm not incorporated, and I choose not to be incorporated because I believe in God. And I'm going to continue to operate. Every time I deal with people with a business, they say, you can't have emotions in business, it's just business. Well, you know what? I have emotions, and I choose not to do business. Because every time I do business, somebody, hurts me, I end up getting, ruined over it. People have ripped me off $60,000, $100,000 just doing business, and it's just business. I just have to accept it. So I made a pact with myself. I no longer will do business. So I have a right to work, though, and to make money or to feed myself, and I shall not be denied of that. And so what has happened since the 10th of, since the very first time, March 19th, going into April 27th, then going into, and so I continued to go exercise my rights, and then the officers violating my due process of law, because it says in due process clause, I'm allowed to conduct business as usual until I have my day in court and I'm either found guilty or innocent. Well, they said that every time they see me, they'll now arrest me and steal my property from me and then dock it into evidence until my day of court. So they're violating my due process of law, okay? That I should have been able to feed myself at least. I have bills coming up. I haven't been able to work, okay? So I was like, it's sad, but I was, it's like, should I charge them, some lawyers charge $1,000 an hour. I was thinking $7 what's that?
I know.
Right. So what if I charged, I've been working on this 11, 10-hour days now. What if I charged $1,000 an hour to the city of St. Augustine, plus $1,000 a day that I wasn't able to work? And so that's, to me, that's terrible. That's not what I want to do. But what am I supposed to do? But if you read Article 9 or Amendment 9 of the Constitution, it says the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. What does it say in Article 1? Same thing. Political power. All political power is inherent in the people. Not the city of St. Augustine. Not these police officers. And so what they're going to do is they're going to take me to court and they're going to try to make it like I'm a trustee. When I ask them if they swore an oath, I'm not going to ask them. I'm going to show them, is this your oath of office? So you're a public servant. So you're a trustee. You're the trustee. I'm the authorized representative. I'm the beneficiary of said account, Seneca Lee Siebert, that you're trying to create lawsuits against and hinder me and deprive me of the right to work, life, liberty, happiness, and the pursuit to own and distribute my own personal property. And there's obligations of contracts. Like if you listen to USC 1-103.6, that moves the Uniform Commercial Code in harmony with the common law. Florida Statute 2.01 enforces and invokes the common law of the state of Florida. But if you read 101, so it's 1-103 without the .6, it talks about the right to contract. And I believe it's 671.
No, you've got work to do.
Florida Statute 671 dot, I believe it's 307. It says the same thing within the Florida statute. I did write it down. Florida statutes. So if I'm wrong, I apologize. But
I hate to cut you off, but I have someone standing at my desk right now. I got your number off the caller ID. Is it the 207-707-7329?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to see what information I can get for you, and I'll see if I get one of the attorneys to reach back out to you. But I got to go help this person, so...
Okay.
I hate to cut you off, but...
All right, thank you so much. Can I get your name real quick?
I'm sorry?
Your name real quick, just so I can write it down.
Shanna.
I really appreciate you. I hope you're not taking me as a negative person. I'm not trying to attack you in any way.
No.
God bless you truly. I'm sending my love and forgiveness to you guys, but this has gone. I need to know really what would be my best course of action. I'm trying to be the best that I can at this. I'm not a very vindictive person. So maybe we can create an understanding of these things and move forward in a more positive manner. If not, I'm going to have to take this to trial. And I don't think the city wants to go to trial over $100 citation and then realizing that they are violating my rights. And so, that's essentially what's going on. So God bless you, Shanna. Maybe you can give me a call back.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Bless you.
Bye.
Bye.